Well, I posed the question at the beginning of the programme, what does a Jet Provost have to do with art? And if you've ever heard the roar of a Jet Provost, you may well be given to wonder. There is one, actually, if you're wondering what the aircraft is. There's one as the Gate Guardian at RAF Cranwell at the Royal Air Force College. They were used as trainers for fast jet pilots in the 1950s and into the early 1960s. And the forerunners to the Red Arrows used to fly Jet Provost aircraft in a formation known as the Red Pelicans. Right, well, all of that is the preamble to introduce on the line a man who has got rather closer than many to the Jet Provost, Paul Flynn. Very good evening to you, Paul.
Good evening, Howard.
You're restoring a Jet Provost at Metheringham Airfield at the moment, and that's where this rather strange story begins.
That's right. Yes. It's been a labour of love, really, over about 10 years. We brought it to Metheringham back in 2004, and myself and 9 other crew members have taken this long to get the aeroplane back up and running again. And we now hold regular public events where we start the aircraft up and taxi it round, and it's proving very popular.
I'm not aware that many of these are left in airworthy condition these days.
There's probably half a dozen in the UK, none around Lincolnshire, ironically enough. So we think it's quite a unique event when we do start the aeroplane up in Lincolnshire. But there are one or two others around the country, one or two down in the southeast, and one that's very active up in the Newcastle area.
Well, all very interesting, but we need to cut to the chase, really, and explain the link to an extraordinary piece of work. So this all began when Tom, I think is it Tom?
Tony.
Tony, one of your team, was listening to the PM programme on BBC Radio 4 and heard Eddie Mears inviting people to send in their favourite sounds.
Correct, that's right. And Tony, quite independently, thought it might be a good idea, albeit a slim chance of playing something like a Jet Provost, thought it would be a good idea to send that sound in.
It was an unlikely contender, wasn't it? Because most people send sort of babbling brooks and bees collecting honey and stuff like that.
Yeah, we honestly can't accuse it of being the strangest sound by any means, but... nevertheless, we were surprised of something that was just simply an engineering project to get that far. So we were really, really pleased when that got aired.
So that appeared just before the 6 o'clock pips, which is the place where they were playing those out each evening. And it's fair to say that, thousands of people sent favourite sounds in, and a lot of them were very interesting. But it goes a step further than that, doesn't it?
It does, and nothing came as more of a surprise when we heard that BBC Radio 4 commissioned a young and increasingly well-known composer to write a piece of music where he could include, I think it was 20 of the most favourable sounds in a new orchestral piece as part of the Proms week.
So this was Tom Harold, the composer, who's been asked to write this piece, and it's going to be recorded this month.
It is August the 20th at the Royal College of Music as part of the Proms week. So we've all been invited down for that event, and the BBC have said they're going to interview us again at the time. So we're really looking forward to that.
Well, that's marvellous. And listeners to BBC Radio can hear that piece of music broadcast on Radio 4 on the 20th of August. Now, when you're going to a posh event, you see, down there to listeners there. So what are you going to wear? Your flying suits?
Yes, we're thinking of not washing our hands on the day, so, really bring the authentic sounds and smells of the project with us. But no, seriously, we do intend making a real event out of it, so we'll be in our glad rags on that day, I think.
Well, I'm sure BBC Radio Lincolnshire will want to talk to you again. And what an extraordinary outcome from your passion for a particular mark of RAF aircraft to featuring in a piece of classical music.
Absolutely.
Who would have guessed that would have happened? Well, thanks very much for taking the time to join us, Paul, on the radio and alerting us to that. So 20th of August, that'll be played on Radio 4, and I'm perfectly certain that we'll be speaking to you again on BBC Radio Lincolnshire. Good luck with that.
I do hope so. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And if you want to go along and see the Jet Provost, it's at the Metheringham Airfield Visitors Centre, and the centrepiece of this piece of classical music. I mean, what are the chances of that? You're all speechless. Yeah, I think probably the effect that will happen to most people.
What chances of the sound being picked up by Eddie Mayer?
Incorporating it in a piece of classical music. That's a lovely.
Yeah, but there were some really interesting sounds that people sent in on that. You know, his sort of call out. It was this really interesting sort of strange strand of the programme when it was running.
Some of them quite surprising, weren't they? Cat scratching whilst somebody was playing the piano, because that's what the cat was doing every time she played, you know. Well,
I think it sort of flags up, doesn't it, the importance of sound to our daily lives, because there's so much that... There's lots of ambient sound around us, and you were talking earlier, John, about the sort of power of the labyrinth, this idea of contemplation and silence. And really, silence is something that we don't encounter often enough, actually. But to actually sort of pick out particular sounds from our daily lives.
Well, and also it flags up passion, how passionate people are about the most extraordinary things,
the things that are important,
and then how they can inspire.
Yeah.
They can be taken beyond that.
Now, Nicola, you do you like noise whilst you're working, or do you work in silence?
Absolute silence.